Are there some practical games of power that occurred, in the way that Stalin took power and held power in the early days?
Mm.
Was there something like this in terms of the establishment of the Revolutionary Guard and all those kinds of stuff?
Yes,
So
yes.
it's the Messianic figure that has some support from the people, but does he have to crush his enemies in competition?
It certainly did. Probably not, certainly not as brutal in terms of the victims as you would see in Soviet Union under Stalin, who the bloodshed or the destruction of the population was far greater than what you would find in Iran of the Islamic Republic. It's incomparable. Perhaps I would find a greater parallel with Mao Zedong, and particularly because China has a very strong messianic tradition since the ancient times. So they have something, and Mao appeared as a kind of a messianic figure. There I can see there is a parallel, but also you can see with any other authoritarian regime with a messianic figure at the head of it that it destroys all the other forces. So during the course of the first 10 years of the Islamic Revolution, it destroyed the liberal nationalist secular. It destroyed the guerrilla movements, some of them Islamic, some of them Marxist, who turned into political parties or tendencies in the course of the post-revolution 1979. They were completely destroyed, and in a very brutal fashion. And their opposition, even within the religious establishment, because it wasn't a uniform, there were many different tendencies. Those that were opposed to the authority of Ayatollah Khomeini, or now Imam Khomeini, meaning almost a sacred religious figure above the level of a religious authority. He's a saint kind of a figure. Shiism has this idea of imams. There were 11 of them. The 12th is hidden and would come back at the end of the time. This is a messianic figure.
Mm-hmm.
So the title that was always used for them only in Shiism, never used for any other person. He is the first person in the revolution of 1979, first referred to as deputy of Imam,
Mm-hmm.
but the term deputy gradually disappeared and he became Imam Khomeini. That's his official title.
I love human beings so much. It's so beautiful. These titles that we give each other.
But
It's
you
marvelous to
you
observe.
love it because you haven't been under that system.
No,
You were
I love it in the way. I love it in a very dark
dark
humor
fashion.
kind of way. It caricatures itself. It's almost funny in its absurdity, if not for the evil that it has led to in
Yes.
human history.
But also the fact that it's in fact fulfillment in a kind of completely unintended fashion.
Mhm.
It's a fulfillment of that idea of a Messiah that they've been waiting for. This Imam, which is in a hidden for 1,000 years, is here and not here. And therefore, Khomeini would have, in effect, fulfilled those anticipations. But beyond that, I just give you one example. I know that you may have other concerns. But when I say elimination, at the end of the Iran-Iraq war, by the direct order of Ayatollah Khomeini, a fatwa that he wrote, a group of prisoners who belonged to a variety of uh, political parties, the left, religious left, majority of them, the left and the Marxist left and the religious left. In a matter of a few weeks, or perhaps a few months, I'm not actually quite sure about the time span, in a series of, these were people who have already been tried and they were given sentences. They were brought back before the summary trials of 3 judges, or more, 3, 4 of them. One of them is now the new president of the Islamic Republic, Raisi. And they were given a quick summary sentences, which meant execution. So something between probably 6 to 8,000 were executed in a matter of a month or 2 months, something like that. Mostly in Tehran, but also in provinces. And that remained an extraordinary trauma for the families, for those who had these kids. They're all young. So this remains very much a kind of original sin of the Islamic Republic that cannot get rid of. And it's in people's memories. They didn't allow them, even the families, to go and mourn their dead in an official cemetery which they created for them. Now the latest thing is that they put a huge concrete wall around it so nobody would be able to get into it. So these all part of this extraordinary level of atrocity, brutality, that you see that the regime who claimed that it comes with the morality of religion and Islam to bring back the justice and be more, in a sense, kind to people, ended up with what it is in the memory of many of the people in Iran.
So developing these fascistic tendencies.
Very much so. Destroying minorities. Baha'i is one of them. Hundreds of Baha'is were, without any reason, without any involvement, were picked up and executed. Their properties were taken over. Their rights were taken away from them, even up to this day. There's the largest, by the way, religious minority in Iran. So you would see that in many areas, this is acts very much as an beyond authoritarian. It's a kind of really a fascistic regime.